Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is now.
So, yeah, and now today is 16th of July. So we were just about to finish Bangladesh and development of Bangladesh. Now, in this, what we did that we tried to evolve the history of Bangladesh, a evolutionary perspective, and we also tried to look into the 10 epochs of Bangladesh. And that was one of the vantage points that you can make sense of Bangladesh. Then from there, we also tried to argue the second vantage point to understand Bangladesh was that through dominant personalities which dominated and led the change in Bangladesh. That was another vantage point. The third vantage point to understand Bangladesh was its diversity, the population diversity. You can understand through how 80% of the population there is Muslims, and then we have actually Hindus, which are actually the numbers are decreasing. We have Chakmas, and we have also some Urdu speaking Biharis there. That is another diversity vantage point. And the fourth vantage point, we were talking about the development of economy, how the development of economy had taken place. And then we came actually to analyzing the history of economic development, where the history of Pakistan and how history of Pakistan has impacted the history of Bangladesh, economic history of Bangladesh, that way. Now, in that context, we also tried to understand why Srijana is not able to come. I'm admitting again and again, but she is not able to be admitted. Now is she in? No, still not she is in. I'm trying to admit Srijana, but she has not been able to admit it. Just check it why. So that historical development of economy goes back to the way the nature of economy of Pakistan was there, and that had a Bangladesh economy had a legacy. And in that context, we tried to look into the foreign aid. What is the contribution of foreign aid? What was the quantum of foreign aid, and how actually the Bangladeshi elite became addicted to foreign aid, and how foreign aid started dictating terms for the developmental model in Bangladesh. That is another point. And in that, we also tried to look into how globalization ushered and how different sections of the society supported and opposed different groups of the society: the peasants, the industrial laborers, the bureaucrats, the left-leaning intellectuals. We also saw how the political parties, the two dominant political parties, the dominant political parties. Why I am not able to admit Srijana, please call. I don't know actually. I'm trying to admit, but is she admitted now?
No, sir, she's not there.
Yes, I think.
There.
Yes, she's there.
So we saw that how bureaucrats how bureaucrats supported, and then they went on to how the business class and industrial class initially supported, and the difference between Indian business class and the Bangladeshi business class, how they were actually open arms welcoming. And then what has happened, what is the impact? That was, another way to understand and make sense of different strata in Bangladesh. So we can understand, make sense of Bangladeshi society and economy. We also try to highlight that a majority of the population, Bangladeshi population, preferred Islamic economic system. And then the second choice was socialistic economy. But they never welcomed globalization, but it has come to stay. Now, in that context, we also wanted to look into proliferation of NGOs. And why did NGOs started flourishing, proliferating in Bangladesh? That is another point which we wanted to discuss. Now, it is here that we wanted to discuss two leading NGOs and what has been their contribution and what is their status now in the world economy. Now, the first thing that what was the main reason for the proliferation of NGOs in Bangladesh? And the answer is simple: the capacity to process the foreign aid. That became the most important aspect. The capacity to process. Now, Bangladesh state had a very limited bureaucracy to process the foreign aid, and therefore they needed institutions. Second, international donors, after donating, often felt that their money could be spent less wastefully, more promptly, more effectively, and more certainly through private organizations. And there was a disbelief, rather you can say, in the governmental organization, because governmental organization, there was a lot of corruption, there a lot of wastage, and therefore implementing a developmental agenda or developmental policy, which was of course being dictated by the foreign donors, because they were trying to extract their ounce of flesh by donating and then actually extract it. So as the dependency theory would say. Now, two NGOs which we want to mention, a special mention to complete our argument. One is BARC. This BARC, B-R-A-C. That is Bangladesh Rural Advancement Committee. And this is in Sylhet district. Sylhet district, very important Sylhet district. If you see, how do you spell S-Y-L-H-E-T, Sylhet. So we can. Sylhet district. Now, what is the it was established in 1972, but it gained very importance very late. Now, if you visit the website, I visited long back, and I am carrying on with that, www.brac.net. So, what is written over there, I think very fascinating thing. An independent, virtually self-financed paradigm in sustainable human development. An independent, virtually self-financed paradigm in sustainable human development. That is what it's written. Now, it is considered to be world largest NGO, and it employs some 97,192 people. A NGO employing that. So, you know, I don't know whether numbers have gone up. You can look into it. Now, it has a twin objective. One objective was poverty alleviation, and another was empowerment of the poor. Of course, it is quite related to each other. Poverty alleviation and empowerment of the poor. That is what they are saying. Now, through the experimental learning, BARC today provides and protects livelihood of around 100 million people in Bangladesh. 100 million people. So NGOs have given employment. This is something, and not 1 or 2 or 10, 100, 1,000 lakh, but 100 million people. Now, in terms of reach, what is its reach? In terms of reach, according to the website, BARC outreach covers all 64 districts of the country. So it is there in all the 64 districts. Moreover, BARC has been called upon to assess number of countries, including Afghanistan and Sri Lanka. Now, over the years, BARC has expanded and has become a giant corporation, which has entered into different types of activities. And just to name some, it has National Health Program, it has a tea company, it has a university, it also has internet service. Now, you see that how proliferation of NGO has, from a NGO, a small NGO, it has grown into a multinational corporation that itself is one of the important point to be noted in the Bangladesh developmental model as well as Bangladesh economy, which is impacting the society. Now, the second example of NGO, another NGO that started out as a local project and has developed into international movement. This was, of course, Grameen Bank. Grameen, Grameen is has not yet come. Grameen Bank. Grameen Bank basically is nothing but, you can say, a rural bank. Now, what is the history? Just history of the Grameen Bank. It began in 1970 as an innovative action research project. And what was that research project? This project was a credit delivery project, and credit delivery to villagers, and it started near Chittagong Hill. Chittagong is basically a hill track, CHT as they say, Chittagong Hill, and became an independent bank within 13 years. That was started in 1970, and in 1983 it became an independent bank within 13 years of its formation. Now, what was the prime motive of this Grameen Bank? What was the prime motive? The prime motive of this bank was designed to challenge the conventional banking system. The conventional banking system, no, they gave loan only to the rich people, and they always asked for security. Now the poor people do not have security. So this was designed. The Grameen Bank lent a small amount of money, and also only to women, group of poor women, without any formal contract or any collaterals or mortgage of anything. So a very, very different and innovative model of banking system, which is known as microcredit, started emerging for the first time in Bangladesh, in South Asia, which can be considered a contribution of South Asia to the world economy or economic system, microcredit. Now, this approach, of course, called as microcredit, proved extraordinarily productive. And in 1995, the bank stopped taking loan from other funders. And in 2007, Grameen Bank had disbursed more than 6 billion in loans. More than 6 billion in loans. Had more than 7 million borrowers in Bangladesh. Almost all women. So women empowerment program on its own was emerging, and we can see that it has reached over 90% of all the villages of the country. Women poverty alleviation without microcredit, 90% of village covered. Now, having done this, like BAR, Grameen Bank, Rural Bank has also grown into powerful corporation with numerous offshoots from the country's major mobile phone company to textile mills. Okay, now therefore, it has also reached to other countries, building on what has been achieved in Bangladesh. Microcredit, that is microfinance program, were set up in many countries in the world. And therefore, in 2006, Grameen Bank founder Muhammad Yunus received a Nobel Peace Prize. Now that is, I think, is important for you to understand that how NGOs have contributed to the development of microcredit and NGOs turning into MNCs type of thing. Also, NGOs have dictated terms of developmental program. especially, donor countries. One of the important program which the NGOs started dictating was flood action plan. And that flood action plan was one of the programs which was not allowed by the NGOs to be implemented. Now, what happened that donors proposed a very massive engineering program to stop flood, because it is a delta region. Geographically, it is a delta region and a lot of floods take place in Bangladesh. But the way out, which was suggested by foreign donor, was that we will make dams and so on and so forth. But the response committee led by NGOs recognized that this all is basically done for for the benefit of the donor countries, and therefore so that instead of flood control, ideas were developed and a campaign was started how to mitigate the flood for once and all. So unless and until you cure the disease will start appearing. And therefore, what they did, improve the drainage through regional solutions. Rather than making a national master plan, you should have the regional program and also environmental assessment, and then you start integrating. So they started regional programs and stopped national program against this floods. That is another important contribution made by NGOs. Last but not the least, a program of a bridge, a very important bridge cutting across. I think it's 4-into-1 bridge. That is a very important. It is known as Yamuna Bridge. Yamuna Bridge, very massive, enormous Yamuna Bridge program. That is, a celebrated engineering feat of Bangladesh. I think that has to be kept in mind. And also, the length of the bridge is 4.8 kilometers. And this is 4-into-1 bridge. What are the 4 facilities? One, it is road bridge. Another is rail connection. Third, it also have communication cables. And fourth, it has pipeline, natural gas pipeline. So how 1-into-4, and it is actually important because it has contributed immensely as far as the economic development of the Bangladesh is concerned. The bridge was opened in 1998 and has been pride of Bangladesh ever since. Okay, so I think these 4 very important components, the 2 NGOs, one of course the flood containment plan, and then we have bridge, all these constitute a humongous developmental strategy of Bangladesh, which we have to keep in mind. Okay, this is what I wanted to say in Bangladesh. If you have some reflection or if you have some query, I think I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, today we are supposed to start another country. Whether my approach of understanding Bangladesh has helped in any way, you can write the comment, or you can throw some light on that. Should I start with? Yeah. Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So I just had a doubt. It's related to right now only when we were discussing the Grameen Bank and how you explained that like these NGOs, they have a very important role in the developmental strategy of Bangladesh. And so you mentioned something regarding the action plan. So there was resistance. There was
Yes.
resistance to foreign aid, and
Yes.
then there was the response committee that was created. But in
Yes.
between, I think you mentioned something about the action plan. So that bit I missed. So if you can just
Plan actually, the companies, they had something in their mind, that look, we will have a national uh, construction for stopping the flood which comes regularly. So they wanted to have dam on a all Bangladesh level, pan Bangladesh level. But these NGOs, they said that no, we have to go by the logic of the local demands and environmental aspects, because dams create lot of displacement, dams create lot of loss to fauna and flora, and lot of land submerges when a dam comes. So they thought that we also have less land, we have such small land and fauna flora, so it will be washed away when we have dams at the big dams, as the model we have, Russian model of development. So they said, no, we want a small local level understanding of the environment, and along with that, we want to clean the silt of the rivers. So they started deepening the rivers. That was a local action plan. And after that, they could check the uh, the floods in that area, because when the depth of the river with the silt started actually getting more deeper, the rivers started getting deeper, because in delta regions a lot of silt comes. So when you start digging out, then the depth of the river increases, and therefore floods do not have that havoc. They do not play that havoc as they play. This was a local action plan which they adopted instead of having a national plan. Okay. Yes. Again, now we are moving towards our another country.
So, wait, can we just stay with Bangladesh for a moment?
Yes.
I was actually wondering, I mean, these projects, these NGOs are very much oriented towards women in particular. And also, if you look up the web page and all, you only see women. So I was wondering how these NGOs have actually affected the like the gender relations there, because I mean it is also such a big, not enterprise, but it's so dominant within Bangladesh that I really wonder how this that plays out.
In that context, actually, I think we can read Naila Kabir's article and formulation. And she is of the opinion, why do these NGOs and the factory owners, why they believe and rely more on women, and why women have become the backbone of the economy of Bangladesh. One example, she says that, all the industrialists and all the institutions, they prefer more women. Why? That is, it's not that the gender component where women are considered to be, more vulnerable, and therefore they are preferred. No, it's not that they are being overpowered and people can exploit them and other reasons where actually a fairer gender is exploited on different grounds. It is not because of that women are docile, they are submissive. It's not that because of which women are preferred in Bangladesh in these institutions. They are preferred, according to Naila Kabir, because they are more reliable. And why are they reliable? They are committed to job because men, they have a habit of not being regular. They have a habit of changing and leaving the job. That there is a lot of uncertainty with them. But women are more committed and they are more trustworthy. Why it is so? It is so because they domestically, women have to run their families. And we all know that in Bangladesh, the age of marriage is 15.6 or 7 months. That is the average age of marriage. And in that average age, women, because of the fertility, they have children, but the men do not have that commitment towards family. And therefore, what happens? They are usually left alone and they have to fight. They have to feed their family. And therefore, women become more committed towards their job, though you can consider it as exploitation. But because of that, women are seen and preferred in number of institutions. That is, one of the arguments which comes from Naila Kabir's article in actually gender and economic development in Bangladesh.
I think that's very interesting. Also, I mean, I wonder how this then reverts back onto the men in Bangladesh. How this actually then, I mean, this is somewhat, or it actually feels like a change which is imposed from outside, and then how this reverts back onto social structures also within the household. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think that can be, another vantage point to understand the social structure and, of course, gender relations within the Bangladeshi society. I will leave it to you all to discover that. And you can share it later on with me. Okay? Then we move on. Hello? Yeah. So now we come to another country. Though I should have taken, Bangladesh. I should have taken Sri Lanka, but I deliberately avoided because it was becoming stale that we were talking about the democracy. But this is the case which has, after colonialism, impact of colonialism in South Asia, Nepal is a case which moves from monarchy to constitutional monarchy to constitutional that is democracy. So it has moved from monarchy to constitutional monarchy and then to democracy. This is important development in South Asia as a region is. Another example, of course, is of monarchy moving towards democracy is Bhutan. And the third example of monarchy moving from monarchy moving towards democracy is Maldives. These three countries out of 8 present in this case. We are not, of course, discussing Afghanistan, so we are talking about 7. So I had explained you the origin of South Asia. When you look the origin of South Asia, then South Asia, the important marker in emergence of South Asia as a region is, of course, colonialism. And when colonialism is over, colonial masters leave. So they have this actually 3 very important axes of development of modernity in South Asia. The one axis was India and Sri Lanka, where democracy was to be consolidated. India got independence in 1947 and Sri Lanka got independence in 1948. But India had to launch a long independence struggle, and India got independence after long independence struggle. But Sri Lanka got independence without any struggle. But in both the countries, constitution was there, few elections had taken place, and therefore it is said that democracy had to be consolidated. But the second axis, after 1947, Pakistan came into existence from India, but they had no experience of democratic movement. So within few years, actually, democracy was converted into dictatorship, and then in 70 years, 28 years have they oscillated between democracy and dictatorship. Similarly, 1971, when Bangladesh was born out of Pakistan, 17 years in 48 years of creation, they have also related between dictatorship, autocratic governments, and democracy. So here, democracy was supposed to be introduced, and then it has to develop. So how they will actually react to the democracy, that was the challenge. Now, then we have the third axis where monarchy has contributed to the development of democracy. That's where I am coming to Nepal, so that there will be a little bit of change from democracy. So again, I will give you a frame of reference so that it is easy to hold the thread and make sense of Nepal as a country. Otherwise, what will happen? Again, we will keep on hovering. So I will give you my own typology as I say that what are the epochs in the evolution of Nepal. So I again give you 10 epochs in the making of Nepal, in the development of history of Nepal, in the evolution of history of Nepal. There can be number of epochs, but what I, with my limited understanding, and I thought that with institutional development, we can take 10 epochs of the modern history of Nepal. So from there, what is the date which we think? What is the date which we think that this is the day, from this day Nepal has started the history? 1742. This is the modern history or date of modern history, beginning of the modern history. 1742, the first epoch. And this is the history of modern Nepal, that is monarchy. And the father or the father of say modern Nepal, that is is it coming?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it is. But the first name is Prithvi, Earth. The first name is Prithvi. I don't know why it is not coming. Prithvi. Prithvi Narayan Shah. The last Prithvi Narayan Shah is considered to be the father of modern Nepal. And 1742, this is the time when we will do it in length. We will just elaborate it later. But for time being, you see, first epoch is started in 1742, when Prithvi Narayan Shah ascended the throne and started organizing. Now, the second epoch is in 1846. 1846. And here, you know, now this is the man, Jang Bahadur Rana, establishes, you know, another type of rule that is considered as autonomy. Rana Autonomy was established, and this whole, you know, what did they do? They made the king subservient. They threw them in background, but they maintained the king, but they started ruling the country, and they became prime ministers of the country. So Ranas were basically considered as prime ministers of the country, but they kept the king, the monarchy, alive. And in the name of king, they started ruling. And they ruled for 105 years, from 1846 to 1951. Now, the important contribution of Ranas was Mulk-e-Ain. That is a type of constitution. Mulk-e-Ain. This is one of the most important constitutions of Ranas. We will come to that later. So for 105 years they ruled, the Ranas. But in 1951, that is the third epoch in the making of Nepal, modern. The third epoch, 1951, Nepal entered in a new phase. For the first time, an attempt of democracy, development of democracy was made. Now, before that, a very important organization, that was Nepalese Congress. Nepalese Congress, 1946. 1946, Nepalese Congress was, you know, formed, and therefore a very new beginning. And that is why I call it a third epoch, because first attempt is being made for the development of democracy. But what happens that before it could, something could happen, you know, Nepalese Congress is formed, and also it is here that even Communist Party in exile, that is actually was formed, Nepalese Communist Party in 1949. But that was disbanded. But again, it was given order that, yeah, you can actually start. We will do it later. This is the third epoch in the making. The fourth epoch, it starts in you know, 1955. 1955. Now, this is the king Tribhuvan, who passed away, and another very important king, King Mahendra, came to power. King Mahendra, this is the Shah dynasty, so I will not keep on repeating Shah again and again. So Mahendra Shah, he came to power in 1955, and then he started, leading. So what he did, the first general elections were held during his time in 1959. 1959, the first general elections were held in Nepal. So you can see the democratic aspect was taking root. The first march of democracy was taking root. But what happened? In 1959, elections took place, but in 1960, King Mahendra threw away the democratically elected government, which came to power in Nepal for the first time after election. So we can say democracy emerged and it was murdered. This was the fourth important epoch into the making. Now, what comes after this throwing of the first democratically elected government? What comes after that? So therefore, I say that that is the fifth epoch in the making of Nepalese society. And this in 1960s. In 1960s, introduction of panchayat system, partyless, P-A-R-T-Y, partyless panchayat system, partyless panchayat system. Okay, partyless panchayat system. And these panchayats were at four levels. The village level, district level, then we had zone level, and then we have national level. And this went on for some time, but what happened? King Mahendra passed away in 1972. Therefore, I'm saying that there is the sixth epoch with the death of King Mahendra, and the king, another king, Birendra, he came to power. So we have the three kings. One was Tribhuvan, who began. Second was Mahendra, and third is Birendra. He was considered to be pro-India, too much of pro-India. Now, during this period, the sixth period, with his ascendancy, with his ascendancy, a few things started taking place. But most important is during this period, I will call, and it is said that during his period, that is 1972 onwards, lot of geopolitical change was taking place. Geopolitical change was taking place at that time. And therefore, what happened? There was a rise of student movement in Nepal. I call it as seventh epoch in the making of Nepal. Rise of Nepalese student movement. And it is said that this was started, especially started because of impact of geopolitical changes which were taking place. What were the geopolitical changes which were taking place at the international level? One was execution of Zulfikar Ali Khan Bhutto. Zulfikar Ali Khan Bhutto. Zulfikar. You know, he was the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He was executed, and then the students started demanding during this period. What was the demand of the student movement? They said that the multi-party system should be, the multi-party system should be done away with, and therefore multi-party system should be brought back, and partyless panchayat system should be done away with. Now this movement in 1979 started, and within 1 year it galvanized so much the people that in 1980 there was a referendum on the panchayat system. But it is said that the polls were rigged, and therefore students could not do anything. Okay, but students' movement had lot of impact, and in this impact led to the first people's movement. First people movement, Jana Andolan. J-A-N-A, Jana Andolan. And that is 1990. So I call it as 8th epoch in the making of Nepal. The first people's movement, Jana Andolan, was born in February 1990. And this was led by Nepalese Congress. Even the communists came and united. And therefore, communists came under the United Left Front. United Left Front. So a new, this movement gave birth to in 1990, why it becomes important. A new constitution was promulgated in 1990. And this reflected a democratic demand of people. In the comprehensive term, it confirmed Nepal as a, that you should move towards democracy. But two very important developments took place in this constitution. One was that for the first time, Nepal was declared as Hindu state. 1919 constitution declared Nepal as a Hindu state. And second, he also said that king as the supreme commander of the army. And it also said that only Hindu can be king. Now, with this democratic constitution in place, multi-party elections were held in 1991. And therefore, what happened that National Congress and United Left came to power, and Nepal started its second journey along the path of multi-party democracy, though there was monarchy still made. However, the government fell, and for economic development, there were a lot of problems, and there was lack of good governance. And from 1991 to 1996, there was this government which was taking place, but there was, bad governance. And as people say that bad governance lead radicalization. So from 1991 to 1996, there existed lot of problems. So chronic poverty, 46% of the population, they were under poverty line. 80% of is still dependent on agriculture. And there was lot of political instability. Now, what was the political instability? It is said that in 12 years, in 11 years, 12 prime ministers were changed. So there was, of course, lot of political instability. 71% of the national wealth, 71% of the national wealth was concentrated in the hands of 12% of the households. 71% of the national wealth was concentrated in the hands of 12% of the households. Now, this was the case, and therefore there was a lot of unrest, and this led to then in 1996, for the first time, the radicalization of the people gave birth to Maoism. Maoism, 1996, the situation led to radicalization of people, and that led to rise of Maoism. That is ninth epoch, 1996, ninth epoch in the making of Nepal. So rise of Maoism, or the period of Maoist insurgency. It is called as Maoist insurgency. Now, what did Maoist promise, and why did Maoist capture the imagination of the people? That is, I think, important, and we will definitely elaborate. But just to give you one or two points, that what did Maoists promise to the population? The answer is very simple, that they promised people that they will remove monarchy, and in place of monarchy, they will have dictatorship of proletariat. That means people's government through people's war. But they were not, totally leading with Marx, but Maoism. Now, what is Maoist style of dictatorship of proletariat? That we have to also make sense. What is the Maoist style of dictatorship of proletariat? The one-liner answer is that, it is a strategy. And this strategy is surrounding the city from countryside. Surrounding the city from the countryside. That is surrounding the city from countryside. Now, this is the important strategy. So they began with they began actually with this, and also they began with symbolic attacks. 1996, they started attacking. Guerrilla war became an important style. And then from symbolic attacks, symbolic violence, they gave a slogan of inevitability of bloody war. Inevitability of bloody war. Inevitability of bloody war. Sorry, war. Now this war, 1996, they declared. And from 1996 to 2006, Nepal faced Maoist insurgency for a decade. Maoist insurgency. And in 2006, therefore, I call it as 10th epoch. From 2006, 10th epoch started. From 2006, a democratic movement, while Maoist insurgency was going on parallelly, a people's movement, lakhs of people started demonstrating daily in front of King's Palace. And therefore, in 2006, a comprehensive peace agreement, CPA, comprehensive peace agreement, CPA, comprehensive peace agreement was signed in 2006 that yes, we will have. And therefore, this peace comprehensive agreement led to 2008 elections. A democratic government was formed. A representative, most representative government, it is said, was formed. And in that way, gradually, Nepal has moved away from monarchy to democracy in these 10 epochs. Okay. Now, this is one way we can, approach. Nepal. Very, very simple way. Now, these epochs, they are not exclusive. They are not final. They are only markers, basically, to make you understand. Because all of a sudden, you cannot make a country understandable to people. And therefore, we have evolved a strategy to tell you so that you can make sense that what are the contours, what are the processes which were there and how it is now. And then you can definitely hold these threads and make sense of it. Okay. Now, this is one aspect. The second way, as usual, the second way to approach and understand Nepal is understanding the demographic diversity. What is the composition of Nepal as far as diversity of population is concerned? According to 2011 census, Nepal is predominantly some 120 million people are there. You can see the current population, but When I checked, I saw it, I think it's 120 million people. And predominantly, it is Hindu country. 80.6% of the population is considered to be Hindu. Hinduism is the state religion. As you know, in 1990s, the 1919 Constitution declared Nepal a Hindu state and Nepali as the official language, 1990 Constitution. So we see the diversity in that sense that 80% of the people are Hindus and Hindu is the state religion. Moreover, the Constitution declares only Hindu can be a king, nobody else. Only Hindu can be a king. However, you know, we have to recognize that Hinduism as practiced in Nepal and as practiced in India, they are two different countries, the different variety of Hinduism. Don't say that it is all fourfold Varna model. It is not the same. It is totally different. But it is nevertheless practiced as Hindu. The second most important population in Nepal is Buddhism. People who practice Buddhist, 11% of the population are Buddhists. The people who practice Islam, 3.2% of the people who Islam. And there are people who have indigenous religion. Indigenous. Indigenous Kirtan religion, as they say, Kirtan, Kirtan religion. This is 3.6% of the population. And, you know, 0.5% are Christians. So we can see that at least 4 world religions, they are represented in Bangladesh: Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, and of course the 5th is now English. So in this, there is a religious diversity in Nepal, but along with religious diversity, we have to also look into linguistic diversity of Nepal if we want to make sense of it. 123 languages are spoken according to 2011 census. 123 languages are spoken in Nepal, and Nepali is spoken by Nepali language is spoken by 44.6% of the population. There, the second most largest is Maithili. Maithili, 11%, approximately 11.7, that is 12%, approximately 11.7% of the population speak Maithili. The third is Bhojpuri. Bhojpuri, 6% of the people speak Bhojpuri. Then Tharu. Tharu is the local, 5.8% of population speak Tharu. Tamang. Tamang, another 5%. And another is Nepali Bhasha. Nepali Bhasha, some 3% of the population speak. So now you can very well make sense of Nepalese not only religious diversity, but also linguistic diversity. So Nepal is a religiously diverse and linguistically diverse country. We cannot say that it is a monolithic whole. There is diversity. Having given you the religious diversity and also linguistic diversity, we should also look into geographical diversity to make better sense of Nepal. Now, in the ancient time, Nepal was divided into 4 geo-ecological zones. 4 geo-ecological zones. The first was, of course, the Himalayas. Himalayas, you know that they're very high mountains. Then there was the middle mountains. And then there were outer Himalayas. And then last was Terai. These are the plains, basically, mountain plains. These were. But in the 19th century, Nepal can be geographically divided into 3 main regions. 19th century Nepal can be divided into 3 main regions. And the most important region is Terai Plains. The first is Terai Plains. Terai Plains. Most important region. The second, of course, is the hills. And the third one is the high mountains or mountains. So we will just look into a little bit of Terai, that is most important region. Terai is the southern part of Nepal, which is bordering India. And the most important aspect is that 50% of Nepal's population live in this area. 50% of the population lives in Terai. And 60% of agriculture land is located in this area. 60% of agricultural land is located in this area. And that is why Terai is known as bread basket of Nepal. Terai is known as bread basket of Nepal. And it contributes 2/3 of Napoli's GDP. 50% of population, 60% of agriculture, bread basket and contributing. It should not be only called as bread basket, but also Bank of Nepal, isn't it? It is 2/3 of GDP it is contributing. So it is the economic, it should be economic capital as well. Hence, people living in Terai, which is, bordering India, they have at least 2 very important advantages. People living in Terai, they have lots of advantage. I will only highlight 2. One, they get direct access to Indian railways, which help them in their economic exercise or economic exchange and therefore economic development. Isn't it? They can come directly to India. The second advantage is that it gives people plenty of supply of labor. to Nepal. So people from bordering area of India, they can go to Nepal and it can help the farming. So because farming needs a lot of hand, it is not yet very mechanized, it is still man driven, and therefore people need labor. So they call them there. Now to this day, agriculture remains the main activity of overwhelming majority of Terai inhabitants, and therefore they need more hands. But you know, if Terai has contributed positively now after 2007, Terai is also facing a uprising, and that is called as Madheshi uprising. Madhesi uprising. The people who live in this, and it has really violent, it has been violent, and it has really created lots of unrest and has challenged Maoist activities in this area as well. Okay. Now, so in this way, I have tried to carve out a framework for you to understand. Otherwise, you know, who cares? Few would care that in South Asia, for past 6 decades, Nepal has been caught in the internal struggle for peace and development and justice. For 6 decades, it was caught. Okay? So who cares actually? We have to look into it. Now, having said, given you a broad line, why one should engage with Nepal? Why? So as I just said you, that we don't know. In South Asia for 6 decades, a country is involved in this struggle of development for peace and justice. 30 million people. How much population I give you for Nepal? What was the population of Nepal? Or did I give you Bangladesh population? I said, I think 120 million, I think I have said. Isn't it? I think 120 million is
yes, you
Bangladesh.
said 120.
Anna? 120 million is Bangladesh. Please correct it. It's all recorded now. Never mind. It's 30 million people with different, actually, you know, religious diversity and distributed in different geographical area, the Kathmandu Valley, that is hills, the hills and the Terai. Nepalese, actually, they have been struggling. Now, we also know that Nepal was involved in failed attempts of democratization, especially 2 attempts we were, 1951, 59, I think there was an election, we started that failed, and in 1990s again. And now it is basically, it is basically now followed by Maoist insurgency. And in recent years, there is a tentative and inconclusive effort for constitutional solution or constitutional development. So you have to have, so they are making a development. So they want to find now constitutional solution for countries' political, social, and economic problems. And after the 10 years of war, that is civil war, that is Maoist insurgency, there has return in 2006, they started on the march of democracy again. The king was forced to resign, and the king has given back power to the people. And with comprehensive peace agreement in December 2006, in 2008, elections were held for Constituent Assembly. Now, it is said that this has been the now members. How many members were there in the parliament? 601 member parliament as 601 Constituent Assembly, which works also as parliament. And it is said that this legislature is the most inclusive legislature in the Nepalese history. What has happened in 2008 election, it has been most. Now, the representation is on the basis of rough proportion of the population. Rough proportion of the population. Now, which are the population? Which are the groups which have been given representation roughly to the proportion of population? One is Madheshi. I just gave you. Madheshi is one of the group. Even Hill Muslims have been given representation. The inner Terai Janjati. Inner Terai Janjati. That is another group. The Hill Dalit. The Terai Janjati. Terai. The inner Terai Janjati, Madhesi, Terai Janjati, Hill Janjati, Terai Janjati, then the Hills Janjati. All these groups have been given proportional representation. The problem came only that there was underrepresentation of the doubly discriminated caste in some province, and if this was Madheshi Dalit. It is one name, Madhesi Dalit. They were underrepresented. It is said that their population was 4.7%, but they were only given 2.4% of representation. But nevertheless, the elections of 2008 with a representative parliament and Constituent Assembly, Maoists came to power. Maoists came to power and led the coalition. This is again a very great example to the world that how Maoists who were hell-bent on insurgency, violence, guerrilla war, how they are being lured into democratic constitution politics, parliamentary democracy. How are they? This is I think, one of the examples to the world. And it is here that, Prime Minister, a Maoist, P-U-S-H-P, Push Kamal Dhal.
So in 2008, the Maoists came into power, right?
Yes. 2008, this brought into the power. Now, but actually the government was brought down within 1 year. Again, they resigned. The leaders of the insurgency, they resigned in 2009. And the issue was control of Nepalese army, whether it will be in control of the parliament or it will be in control of the king. This led to another bout of elections, and in August 2011, Maoists returned to power under the coalition government led by a number of Maoist ideologues and others. So I'm just giving you this, that this is the way we have seen how the democracy has developed. Now, there is one more vantage point which I want to give you, a geopolitical sense, as well as an important that why should Nepalese transition be of our interest? Why should it interest us? Now, there are actually at least 4 reasons that it should interest to us. There may be many more, but I'm just trying to highlight, taking some from other readings. There may be a number of reasons. The first, Nepal is situated between Asia's 2 giants, China and India. And their relationship oscillates between tension and cooperation. Always. We see very recently what has happened. Now, India is very sensitive to any advances China make into the Nepal. Why? Because there is a past history. And because, India perceives China in its own backyard. And in many ways, Nepal represents a microcosm of the wider geopolitical struggle playing in the region. So in whose camp Nepal can come? We see that how US also have an interest through Pakistan, and China has direct interest because of, Maoist government which came to power. The second, the recent development, especially political development in Nepal, involving first Maoist insurgency and then Maoists capturing the political power, and they joined electoral politics. So we can see ideologically, because Maoism is so dominant in China, and now Maoist government has taken over in Nepal, there is always an apprehension. Okay? And therefore, there is a very important reason that we should engage with Nepal. Also, Maoist leaving the guerrilla war insurgency and joining electoral politics is a lesson for number of countries which are facing insurgency. And India is one of them. India also faces Maoist insurgency. It is said that 156 districts of India are under their siege. Though government keeps on saying that no, Maoists are on the roll down, but they are not. The third important reason is the peace process and the wider transition which had given democracy and which also have various international agencies and efforts to bring peace in Nepal. So we should also try to look into that how a country which is involved in Maoist insurgency, how it has gained peace. How many international agencies have helped. So this can be another lesson. For example, efforts of initiatives for peacemaking by NGOs, non-governmental organization, made lot of effort. Second, United Nations General Secretary, United Nations office is also. India, how India contributed. And how the foreign aid, international donors, how they have invested. Now, fifth is deployment of United Nations field mission. United Nations field missions, which involved at least 2-3 agencies. One was United Nations Office of High Commission of Human Rights. They visited, Human Rights Committee visited to look after the human rights. The second was UN mission in Nepal. And this United mission in Nepal was mandated by Security Council to assess the implementation of Comprehensive Peace Treaty, CPA, in 2000. How it's not that Nepal implemented CPA on its own. There were international agencies which were there and helping them. Last but not the least, how after 6 decades of insurgency, internal struggle, how a country creates peace and then the struggle, the peace and the struggle and the development takes place. Okay. Now, this is why we should involve in understanding of Nepal. Now, in this context, we would like to understand at least 2 broader processes. One, the panchayat system. What was the panchayat system? How did it function? Who were the functionaries? How many committees it had? And last, why did it fail? That is one institution that we should understand. The second institution or second phenomena we should understand is Maoist insurgency. What are these? How they have captured the imagination of the people? What did they promise to the people? How did they mobilize? What was their strategy? How they captured political power, and so on and so forth. I think with these understanding, we can make sense of South Asia, another nation, how did it? And for this, I think I have told you long back, Dor Bahadur Bista. The book was Dor Bahadur Bista. That was, I think, fatalism and change. Let me see. Yeah, fatalism and development. Fatalism and development. That was the book name. Yeah, and I think the second article I think you should read in the book called Nepal in Transition. And this is Nepal in Transition, edited by Sebastian. Sebastian's, I think, Ansdale, and there are, I think, Suman Pradhan is there from now. This is an edited volume in which, if you read this article, I think it will be good for you. The first introduction itself will help you. If you read introduction of this, I think that will help you. I will ask Abhivekti if she can help, and it's a long 31-page article. I don't know. Neeraj, do you have the answer? Have this photostat copy?
Sir, actually, the copies are not here. They are all there in the center.
Okay. I think we will just check it if it can be. Okay. So we will have these two topics done, I think, and that will also help us to understand more the Napoli society. We'll do this 10 epochs a little bit in greater length, and then the 2 epochs there. Any reflection or question which you want to ask? Anyone?
Hello.
Yes, Akansha.
So my question was, when you told about demographic diversity in that languages, when you said Nepali language was 44.6%, and then after the other languages which were having lesser percentage, you mentioned Nepali Bhasha as well. So are these two languages then different?
Yeah,
Nepali
different. Actually, they are different because Nepali Bhasha, has a lot of mixed, words, mixed words of different other languages. That's why it is local dialect type of things.
Thank you, sir.
Just like Hindi has so many dialects, you see. Maghai, Bagheli, Avdhi, all have been mixed and said that is Hindi.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I think one more thing which we wanted to discuss was assignments. Yes or no?
Yes,
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Assignments, yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, what happened that actually I was thinking we had discussed one presentation from you people. That was a collective presentation on different countries, and you had chosen your country. Now, I would suggest that you can keep that presentation as one of the submission. So what you can discuss among yourself, and then discuss and evolve a paper, a collective group paper contributed by you each, and that paper will be submitted by the group, and I will accept it as presentation. Okay. That is one you have to, I think you can carry on because you have already read. I know that many of you were reading, you had collected all the readings, you have discussed points with me. So I will request you to go ahead with that. And all the group persons, they can submit that in group. All the names will be written, but there will be one paper. But you have to talk among themselves, either through Zoom or phone, or you can exchange your notes so that all contribute. And then you can submit. That is one. The second was you were supposed to write a term paper. Write a term paper of at least 3,500 words. I will say you can write 3,000 also, 3,000 to 2,500 words on a topic which you have chosen. Already few people have written the term papers, but we can ask you to write a term paper of 3,500 words on a topic chosen by you, but it should fall in the ambit of South Asia. Okay. Is it clear? Yes or no? Okay. So I think the date, you decide. Usually you have July, full July with you, at least 14, and you also have 1 month time I can give till 15th of August. 15th of August, actually, I think if you can take 15th of August. I'm still waiting because nothing has come from the university, whether this session can go till September. I think you should write to the authorities that UGC has given and you people are not giving us any guidelines on that. Okay? Should I finish? All the best.
Thank you, sir.
And when are you meeting again? At least 2 days time?
Sir, shall we meet on?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Diksha.
No, you tell what date you were saying.
Pen, yeah, tell me.
I was suggesting Monday.
Okay, no problem. But I think as soon as you can finish, that will be fine. Okay, Monday is fine.
We can actually do like what we did for Jenna, sir. We have kept 3 days slots are booked for Jenna, sir, from 10:30 to 11:30, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So we can do the same with your course that Monday, Tuesday, middle of that is.
You don't worry about actually Monday. I think we'll do Monday, then we will decide. Okay. Because I think you need also to read in between, and then you also I have to also read for you people. I have to also prepare. So I also need some time because these are not normal days, you know. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we'll decide on Monday. I think it can be on Wednesday also. Monday and Wednesday. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, some gap in between would help. Yes, sir.
So I think you have now, today is Thursday. So you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days. All the best.
Yes.
Yeah, take